Imagine clocking in for your shift at a factory and finding out that your coworker is a ghost. This is not a scene from a horror movie, but a chilling reality that some factory workers had to confront. At first, it seemed like any other day at the factory. Workers arrived, clocked in, and busied themselves with their daily tasks. Among them was an employee who seemed no different from the rest. He followed a routine, arriving on time, never missing a day, and diligently completing his work. However, there was something eerily off about him. This peculiar coworker never engaged in small talk, never took a lunch break, and was always the last one to leave. Initially, these quirks were brushed off as the habits of an introverted, hard-working employee. But as days turned into weeks, his behavior started to unnerve his fellow workers. A few workers thought it was all a prank, a joke played by someone with a strange sense of humor. Others felt an uncanny chill in the air whenever they crossed paths with the silent worker. The factory, once bustling with the clamor of machinery and friendly banter, was now filled with hushed whispers and wide-eyed speculation. The turning point came when some workers noticed that this co-worker never cast a shadow, no matter how bright the lights were. And despite the noisy factory environment, his footsteps were eerily silent. The workers' unease grew into a sense of dread. They began to wonder if their co-worker was not a living person, but a ghost haunting the factory. As the suspicion grew, so did the tension. Workers started avoiding the silent employee, giving him a wide berth whenever they saw him. The factory, once a place of camaraderie and teamwork, was now filled with apprehension and fear. Little did they know their suspicions were about to be confirmed in the most chilling way. As days turned into weeks, the factory workers couldn't shake off the eerie feeling. An uncanny chill seemed to linger in the air, as if a specter was walking among them. The daily grind took on a surreal quality, with the strange happenings becoming more frequent. Tools would vanish only to reappear, machines would start and stop on their own, and a cold gust of wind would often sweep through the factory floor, even when all the windows and doors were firmly shut. In the midst of this, one worker stood out. A solitary figure, silent and almost invisible, he seemed to blend into the shadows. His presence was barely noticeable, yet he was always there, diligently completing his tasks. His colleagues began to take note of his oddities. He never took breaks, he never interacted with anyone, and he seemed to glide rather than walk. One fateful night, the truth unfolded. A laborer, working late, saw the quiet worker phase through a solid factory wall. Stunned, he could only stare as the figure disappeared into the wall, leaving no trace of its passage. The worker ran, his screams echoing through the empty factory, alerting the others. They gathered, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear. The revelation was terrifying. Their co-worker, the silent, diligent laborer, was not a living being but a ghost. The factory erupted into chaos, workers fleeing in terror, leaving behind a deserted factory echoing with their screams. The following day, the factory was eerily silent. The workers returned, their faces etched with fear. They spoke in hushed whispers, their eyes constantly darting around, as if expecting the ghost to materialize any moment. The once bustling factory was now filled with an unsettling quietude. The machines sat idle, the tools lay untouched. No one dared to work, the fear was too palpable. The factory was never the same after that night. In the wake of the revelation, the factory became a place of fear and intrigue. It was as if the very walls that once echoed with the hum of machinery and the chatter of workers were now whispering ghostly tales. The news spread like wildfire across the town, igniting a flurry of reactions. Some were skeptical, dismissing the incident as a hoax or an elaborate prank. Others were terrified, their imaginations running wild with the possibilities of what might lurk in the shadows. But for a surprising number, the news was not a source of fear, but fascination. The town's residents, previously indifferent to the nondescript factory, were now drawn to it like moths to a flame. The factory, once a symbol of industry and labor, was now a beacon for the curious and the brave, those with a thirst for the unknown and the unexplainable. The factory's daily operations took a back seat as the buzz grew louder. The echoes of machinery were replaced by hushed whispers and the soft tread of cautious footsteps. Every creak, every rustle, every unexplained noise was met with wide-eyed anticipation. The spectral employee, although unseen, had a palpable presence that hung heavy in the air. The factory's visitor registry, previously filled with names of suppliers and inspectors, now bore names of paranormal investigators, thrill-seekers, and ghost story enthusiasts. Each visitor, armed with their courage and curiosity, hoped to encounter the spectral worker, to validate the tale that had so gripped the town. The factory, once a place of work, had now turned into a hotspot for ghost enthusiasts. Its halls, once filled with hard-working employees, now echoed with the whispers of ghostly tales and the hushed excitement of its visitors. A chilling testament to the power of a ghost story, the factory was forever changed, its identity intrinsically linked to its spectral worker. Soon, the factory's ghostly employee caught the attention of paranormal investigators. They descended upon the factory with a curiosity that was palpable, their equipment humming in the eerie silence of the deserted plant. Night vision cameras, electromagnetic field detectors, and digital voice recorders jostled in their eager hands, ready to uncover the secrets that the factory held within its walls. The investigators began their work methodically, inspecting every inch of the factory. Each creak of the floorboards, each flicker of the lights was noted, recorded, and analyzed. They spent hours in the dimly lit corners of the factory, their eyes straining in the darkness, their ears pricked for any hint of the supernatural. Their findings were as fascinating as they were perplexing. They recorded temperature drops in certain parts of the factory, unexplainable by natural causes. They picked up electromagnetic field spikes that seemed to come from nowhere. And most intriguingly, they recorded inexplicable voices on their digital recorders, whispers that seemed to echo from a time long past. As they delved deeper into their investigation, the investigators discovered a forgotten chapter in the factory's history. It was a tale of a worker who had mysteriously disappeared decades ago, never to be seen again. His disappearance had been the talk of the town, but with time, his story had faded into oblivion, becoming nothing more than a ghostly memory. The investigators hypothesized that this could be the spirit of the lost worker, still tethered to the factory, still clocking in for his shift. They pieced together a narrative from the snippets of history they uncovered and the paranormal evidence they collected. Yet, for all their efforts, a definitive conclusion eluded them. The identity of the ghostly worker remained shrouded in mystery, his story untold. As the investigators packed up their equipment and left the factory, they were filled with a sense of unease. They had come seeking answers, hoping to solve the mystery of the ghostly worker. Instead, they found themselves drawn deeper into the enigma, their minds teeming with questions that had no answers. The investigators left with more questions than answers. Despite the inconclusive nature of their findings, the investigation had only served to deepen the intrigue surrounding the factory's ghostly employee. The mystery, it seemed, was far from over. In the end, the ghostly employee left behind a legacy that would be remembered for years to come. A specter that, for a month, was just another face in the crowd, a cog in the machine, leaving no trace of its otherworldly origins until the truth was unveiled. The story shook not just the factory, but the entire town, leaving an indelible mark on the minds of those who lived through it. The factory, once a bustling hub of activity, became a monument to the unusual, a testament to the inexplicable. The humming machinery, the clatter of tools, the chatter among workers, all were tinged with a sense of the surreal, a reminder of the month-long presence of a being from beyond. Yet, it was not just the physical space that was transformed. The workers themselves, those who shared shifts with the apparition, experienced a profound shift in perspective. The mundane was now mysterious, the ordinary extraordinary. The ghost worker had become a symbol of the unknown, a reminder of the unforeseen mysteries that life could spring upon them. The factory's operations, too, underwent changes. Extra measures were put in place, not just for safety, but to ensure the reality of their workers. The incident, eerie as it was, served as a wake-up call, a reminder of the importance of knowing who, or in this case what, was part of their workforce. It's fascinating, isn't it? How the discovery of one ghostly worker could ripple out, altering the fabric of an entire community. The ghost had moved on, yet its memory lingered, woven into the very essence of the town and the factory. The story of the ghost worker continues to be a chilling reminder of the thin line between the living and the dead.